She pressed gauze into a stranger's side and said, "Sit down, you're bleeding." She had no idea he controlled every block in Mapogu. 3 minutes before that, 1:04 a.m., Ada was alone. She was sitting on a metal stool behind the counter of her clinic, a clinic the size of a bedroom. Barley tea going cold beside her phone. Supply lists on the screen. The only sounds, the buzz of the overhead light and the low hum of the mini fridge where she kept the insulin. She slept here most nights. The cot in the back room was hers, not by choice. The rent on a real apartment was money she sent somewhere else every month. Somewhere she tried not to think about after dark. Then the shadow hit the glass. A man, white shirt. She could see the cut of the fabric even through the blood, the collar, the stitching at the cuffs. That shirt cost more than her monthly rent. He pushed the door open, took 2 steps, stopped. His face was gray, not pale gray, the gray that comes when the body starts picking which organs to save. His breathing was shallow, too fast, small sips of air like a man drowning on dry land. He looked at her. She looked at the blood. "Sit down," she said. "You're bleeding." He sat, not because she was gentle about it. His knees were already going. He dropped onto the exam table and the paper under him crinkled and turned red in 2 seconds. Ada pulled on gloves, grabbed scissors, stepped toward him, and stopped. Shoes off. Phone away. You don't touch anything. His jaw tightened, his chin lifted 1 inch. Not much, just enough. The tiny motion of a man who doesn't take orders from anyone. But he took off his shoes, set his phone on the counter, placed both hands flat on his thighs, and he let her work. She cut the shirt open. The wound ran along his left rib. A groove, not a hole. The bullet had traveled along the bone, not through it. Deep enough to bleed badly. Shallow enough to fix. If you had the right tools, Ada didn't have the right tools. She had iodine, gauze, a needle, silk thread, and hands that didn't shake when they should have. She cleaned the wound. He didn't make a sound, not a hiss, not a flinch. His jaw locked. His nostrils flared once. That was it. She'd seen men scream for less than this. She stitched. The needle went in and out, in and out. The only sound in that room was her breathing and the click of the forceps against the tray. 43 minutes. That's how long it took. When she finished, she taped the gauze, checked his pulse, sat down in the plastic chair across from him. She didn't ask his name. She didn't ask who shot him. She didn't ask why a man in an 800,001 shirt was bleeding in her clinic at 1 a.m. instead of sitting in a Gangnam hospital. A man who avoids a hospital is a man who can't afford questions. Not the money kind, the police kind. She didn't mean to fall asleep. But the night was long and the chair was familiar, and her body just stopped asking. When she woke, the sun was gray through the window. The man was gone. On the counter, beside her peppermint oil jar, sat an envelope. She opened it. Cash. More cash than she'd held at one time in years. She didn't count it. The thickness told her enough. Before we go further, if you love stories where one small choice tears an entire life open, subscribe right now. In about 10 minutes, she's going to walk into a restaurant and find out the man she saved is the reason she's been paying a dead man's debt for 13 years. Every morning before gloves, Ada put 3 drops of peppermint oil on her wrist. The smell of her mother. The smell of the room where her mother fought cancer for 11 months and lost. A hospital room in Seoul that smelled like bleach, floor wax, and the peppermint her mother rubbed on her own temples when the pain got bad. 3 drops, 1 breath, gloves on. That's how she started every day in a country that wasn't hers. In a clinic that was barely standing. The debt was 80 million won, about $60,000. Her father borrowed it 14 years ago from people who don't use banks. He borrowed it because Ada's mother had cancer. Stage 3. The doctors in Lagos said there was nothing left. A doctor in Seoul said there was. Her father believed the doctor in Seoul. When your wife is dying, you'll believe anyone who says she doesn't have to. They flew to Korea. The treatment didn't work. Her mother died in November. Her father died 3 months later. Heart attack. Alone. In a rented room 6 blocks from where Ada now worked. Ada was 20. She'd come to help. When both parents were gone, the debt stayed. The men who lent the money didn't care that the borrower was dead. The name changed on their ledger, father to daughter. That was all. 80 million won. At rates no bank would touch. Ada had been paying for 13 years. She'd paid triple what her father borrowed. The number never shrank. She never argued. She never reported it. She never asked for help. She just paid. And worked. And paid. And worked. Somewhere inside that loop, she built a belief she could almost touch. If I just keep going. If I just don't stop. If I just don't make noise. Endurance was strength. Being seen was danger. That's what 13 years had taught her. 2 men in suits came on the first of every month. They never sat down. They never asked how she was. The taller one, Mr. Han, stood with his hands behind his back, waited like a man at a register. Ada was wrapping a 7-year-old boy's wrist. His mother sat beside him, hands folded, eyes down. The boy winced. Ada held his arm. "Almost done," she said in Korean. Soft voice, steady hands. Mr. Han leaned toward his partner, spoke in Korean. Low, like she was furniture. "외국인 주제에 여기서 뭘 지켜? 그냥 돈 내." A foreigner, what's she protecting? Just pay. Ada didn't look up. She finished the last wrap, pressed the tape flat. Then she slid the envelope across the counter with one hand, still holding the boy's arm with the other. She locked eyes with Mr. Han. Clear, calm, fluent Korean. Juan Jabuto, patient first. Mr. Han's partner flinched, not at the words, at the accent. It wasn't broken. It wasn't cute. It was fluent. The grandmother in the second row pulled her grandson into her lap. The student volunteer froze with her clipboard against her chest. Mr. Han took the envelope, counted the bills, didn't look up. "Next time, don't be late," he said. They left. The door clicked shut. Ada turned back to the boy. "Okay, flex your fingers for me. Here's the part that'll make you sick." 3 days after she stitched the stranger, the monthly collectors came. Ada slid them an envelope, the same envelope. She used the money from the man she saved to pay the debt that was killing her. She had no idea the money came from the same place the debt went, the same man, the same family. She paid her cage with her prisoner's cash. 3 weeks passed. The stranger didn't come back. Ada told herself she'd forget him. She almost did. Then a name reached her ears. Not at the clinic, not from the collectors. From a patient's husband, talking too loud on his phone in the waiting room. Park Jaesung. He said it the way you say a storm is coming. Quiet, careful, like the name itself could hear him. Ada looked up. The man caught her eye, lowered his voice, turned his body away from her. Park Jaesung. The name meant nothing to her then. In 2 weeks, it would mean everything, because one morning, an envelope arrived at the clinic. Not the usual one. This one was thick paper, cream-colored, 1 page inside. No handwritten note, no phone number, just a letter with a red seal at the bottom and 4 words she'd stopped believing she'd ever read. Chemu Wan Nach, debt paid in full. Ada read it 6 times, held it up to the light, turned it over, smelled it. Paper and ink, nothing else. 13 years of bleeding, and now 1 page says it's over? No. Someone was playing a game she didn't understand. She traced the seal, a company name, an address in Jongno. Under that, the name of a restaurant. She went. The restaurant was the kind of place Ada had walked past 100 times and never entered. Dark wood, stone, paper lanterns that made everything look warm except the prices. The prices weren't on the menu. If you had to ask, you shouldn't be there. She walked in wearing scrubs. Her sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. She held the letter in one hand, her clinic bag in the other. Every person in the dining room looked up. 2 men at the first table stood. They bowed, not deep. Quick and sharp, the kind of bow you give someone who matters. Ada walked past them, confused. A third man near the hallway straightened his jacket, stepped aside. A host appeared, young, pressed suit, white gloves. He didn't ask her name. This way, please. He led her down a hallway that got narrower with every step. The walls pressed in. The light got warmer. The air smelled like cedar wood and sesame oil and something sharper underneath. The clean bite of expensive cologne. At the end, a door, heavy wood, slightly open. The host pushed it. Ada stepped inside. 11 people. Jaesung at the head of a long table. 3 men on his left. She'd learn later they were lieutenants. 4 men standing against the walls. Security. 2 aides near the door. And him. Clean suit, dark charcoal. A watch on his left wrist that caught the light. His hair was neat, his back was straight. But his eyes. She knew those eyes. She'd seen them at 1 a.m. Sharp despite the blood loss. Dark and quick. Taking in everything at once. The man from her clinic. He stood. Park Jaesung stood up from his chair, pressed both palms flat on the table and rose. The room went still. Not silent. Still. The kind of still where the air holds its breath. A lieutenant's cup hung in the air halfway to his mouth. An aide took 1 step back, small, the flinch of a hand pulled from a hot stove. And Daeho, Kwon Daeho, the man at Jaesung's right. His eyes moved. Not to Ada, to the other men, reading faces, counting what this moment meant. Jaesung looked at her, not down, not past her, at her. Kanal Sebyok, Tanshini Nal Salyosmita. That dawn, you saved me. The room didn't breathe. Chopsticks froze in the air. 1 guard's hand twitched toward his jacket. Not a threat. Reflex. The body reacting before the brain caught up. Ada stood in the doorway and felt the math hit her all at once. The stranger she stitched, the cash on the counter, the envelope she gave to the collectors, the debt erased overnight, the same hands, the same money, the same machine. She'd been inside it the whole time and never knew. I need you to answer this honestly. If you'd been paying someone 80% of your income for 13 years, and then you found out the man you saved was the man your money was feeding, what would you do? Walk out? Scream? Forgive him? Tell me in the comments. Because what she does next is the exact choice that turns her from invisible into a target. Daeho spoke first. He didn't look at Ada. He looked at Jaesung. His voice was flat and heavy. 회장님, 외국인 간호사 하나 때문에 가문빚을 지우면 우린 뭐가 됩니까? Boss, if you erase a family debt for 1 foreign nurse, what are we? Every man in the room looked at her, some with curiosity, some with something colder. Ada bowed. Not deep, not small, precise. The bow of someone who knows exactly where she is. Then she spoke. Korean, clear, loud enough for every person in that room. 저 때문에 아닙니다. 제가 한 건 바느질 뿐이에요. It's not because of me. What I did was stitching. That's all. She turned to Jaesung, quieter now. Just for him, but the room heard every word. Pichin ze insaniasoya. The debt was my life. 1 guard straightened his jacket, not on purpose, his body responding to something it recognized. Daeho's jaw tightened, because she didn't speak like a guest. She spoke like she belonged in the room. Jaesung looked at her for a long time. Then he sat. I was going to help your clinic, he said in Korean. New equipment, more staff. A gift. Ada shook her head. 1 shake. Don't help my clinic. End the debt. That's it. Not fund it, not dress it up, not turn her into a project. Erase the number. Walk away. The room shifted. What Jaesung had planned was quiet. Pay for the clinic, keep the debt on paper. Let the old guard save face. What Ada demanded was loud, a clean line through the ledger. Public. Final. Jaesung nodded once. Done, he said. Daeho's hands folded on the table. His knuckles went white. Ada picked up her bag, walked back through the dining room. The men who had bowed when she entered watched her leave now. She could feel their eyes on her spine. She stepped outside. Night air on her face. Cold. Sharp. Clean. For the first time in 13 years, nobody owned her. That feeling lasted about a month. The collectors didn't come. First of the month. Nothing. No suits. No envelope. No next time, don't be late. Ada stood behind the counter and waited. She checked the clock. 7 p.m., 7:30, 8 o'clock. The door stayed shut. Silence should feel like relief. It didn't. It felt like the second before a car crash. Everything slow and clear. You know the impact is coming, but you can't move yet. A teenager came in at 6:47 with a sprained ankle. Ada wrapped it. Checked the swelling. Told her mother, ice it 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. The mother thanked her 3 times. By the time they left, it was dark. Ada locked up, grabbed her bag, stepped into the alley behind the clinic, the shortcut she took every night. Flickering light, dumpster that smelled like old kimchi and wet cardboard. She'd walked this path 1,000 times. She could do it with her eyes closed. A hand on her shoulder. She didn't scream. Her body went rigid, locked from the feet up. Her bag hit the ground. Her back hit the brick wall. 2 men, not Jaesung's men. She knew right away. Jaesung's men wore dark suits with clean lines. These men wore leather jackets. Their knuckles were wrapped in tape. Old guard, Daeho's. The first hit was to her ribs. Left side, precise. The second was to the same spot. The third was lower. Kidney. They didn't touch her face. Think about that. They broke her ribs, but left her face clean. A nurse with a bruised face can't work. A nurse who can't work can't pay. Even cruelty had math in this world. One of them leaned close. His breath was hot, sour, the smell of soju and cigarettes. The boss doesn't change this, he whispered. The boss doesn't change this. Then they were gone. Footsteps fading. The alley quiet again except for the buzz of the fluorescent tube. Ada lay on the concrete and counted. 1, 2, 3. She counted the way she counted everything. Stitches, bills, drops of peppermint oil. Numbers were the only thing that didn't lie. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's how long she lay there. Then she stood, picked up her bag, walked back inside the clinic. She locked the door, went to the bathroom. Mirror. Her lip was split. One cut, small, where her teeth caught the inside of her mouth. She opened the supply drawer. Same silk thread she'd used on him. Same curved needle. Her hands shook. She gripped the edge of the sink with both hands, white knuckles on white porcelain. She waited, counted. 90 seconds. 90 seconds until the tremor stopped enough for her to thread the needle. She stitched her own lip. Alone. Under fluorescent light. At 9:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. With the same thread that had held the stranger's side together 5 weeks before. She didn't call anyone. She didn't tell anyone. She went to the cot in the back room, lay down on her right side because the left hurt too much, stared at the ceiling until her body gave up and let her sleep. She opened at 7 a.m. the next morning. Same routine, peppermint oil, 3 drops, gloves on. She moved slower. The ribs screamed every time she bent. But she moved. A patient came in with a cough. A mother brought twin boys for shots. Ada smiled at all of them. She didn't tell Jaesung. She didn't tell anyone. Because telling meant being seen. Being seen meant being a problem. Being a problem meant losing the only thing she had left. Her work, her clinic, her reason to get up in the morning. That's what 13 years of debt had built inside her. Not a habit. A whole person. A person who swallowed pain. Who cleaned her own blood off the sink. Who showed up to work the next morning like nothing happened. If you've ever swallowed pain because you didn't want to be a problem, If you've ever cleaned your own blood off a sink and still showed up the next morning, you already know why she doesn't tell him. You also know why that silence is about to get people killed. Jaesung found out anyway. Not from Ada, from a whisper inside his own circle. Someone who had looked the other way during the beating. Who mentioned it to someone. Who mentioned it to someone. Who mentioned it where Jaesung could hear. That's how information moves in that world. Not in straight lines, in spirals. By the time it reaches the top, it's been through 6 mouths. But the shape never changes. Jaesung sat alone. He placed his phone on the table, reached for his watch, unclasped it, set it beside the phone. He rolled his left sleeve, then his right. 8 seconds. The same way, every time. The way a surgeon scrubs before cutting. Then he made a call. 11 seconds. That's how long the call lasted. I'm not going to describe what happened next in detail. I'll give you the number. 4. 2 men who beat her. 2 men who stood guard outside the alley and did nothing. 4 men who woke up that morning and did not go to sleep that night. The message moved to the organization like frost across a window. You don't see it happen, but by morning, every surface has changed. He killed 4 men for the foreign nurse. Here is something about Daeho you should know. He was not evil. He had a daughter, 29. Ada's age, he ran the collections because the code said someone had to. Because without the code, the system broke. When the system broke, everyone under it bled. He was protecting structure the only way he knew how. The way a man builds walls. Not because he loves walls, because he's scared of what's on the other side. That doesn't make what he did right, but it makes it human. Midnight. The clinic doorbell rang. Ada was cleaning instruments. Clink of metal in the steel tray. Hiss of sanitizing solution. Low hum of the single light above. She was working with cracked ribs and a stitched lip and hands that were steadier than they had any right to be. She looked up. Jaesung. Through the glass. His left arm was dark from shoulder to elbow. A different wound this time. Deeper. Messier. His shirt was ruined. His face was gray again. The same gray from 5 weeks ago. But his eyes were different. 5 weeks ago, they'd been sharp and desperate. Tonight they were heavy. The heaviness of a man who'd done something that can't be undone. He didn't open the door. His hand was on the frame. His fingers rested against the wood. But he did not step inside. He waited. Ada looked at him through the glass for a long time. She thought about 4 dead men. She thought about the thread in her lip. She thought about her mother's peppermint oil and her father's borrowed money and 13 years of envelopes and Mr. Hand's voice saying, "Just pay." She could close the blinds, turn off the light, refuse. She walked to the door, opened it 6 inches. "You wait there," she said, "on my threshold." He didn't argue. He didn't push the door. He stood on the cold stone step outside her clinic at midnight, with blood running down his arm, and he waited, because she told him to. The most powerful man in 3 districts of Seoul. And a doorstep was the one border he wouldn't cross without permission. Ada looked at his wound, looked at his face, took a breath. "Sit down," she said. "You're bleeding." Same words, same voice. But this time, both of them knew what they meant. She opened the door. He stepped in. Same table, same scissors. Same cut of fabric, same iodine spreading amber across skin. But this time, her hands were steadier. She noticed that. And he noticed her noticing. Last time, she'd saved a stranger. This time, she was stitching a man who'd killed for her. The thread was the same. The hands were the same. But something between them had shifted. It could never shift back. He spoke while she worked. Quiet, flat. "I didn't ask," he said. "I handled it. 5 words, no apology, no shame, a statement of fact from a man who makes decisions the way weather makes decisions, without asking the ground." Ada didn't stop stitching, didn't look up, pulled the thread through, tied it, cut it. "I didn't ask you to handle it. I know. 4 people are dead. Yes, because of me, because of them." She taped the gauze, pressed it flat. pulled off her gloves. "You should know something," she said. "I lied. By not telling you, I lied about what happened to me. And people died because I was quiet." He looked at her. "You were quiet because you've been trained to be quiet. 13 years of training. That doesn't make it clean." "No," he said. "It doesn't." They sat there. The clinic hummed. The light buzzed. Somewhere outside, a car engine idled. Neither of them was clean. Neither of them was innocent. And neither of them could undo what the other had put into the world. That's not a love story. That's a wound with two people standing inside it. The clinic changed overnight. No exam light, not the flickering one she taped twice. A blood pressure monitor that didn't need to be smacked to work. A real sterilizer. 2 cushioned chairs in the waiting room. She didn't buy any of it. She didn't hire the staff who showed up on Monday. A young woman in a clean uniform who said, "I'm here to help," and started organizing the supply closet before Ada could answer. Gifts are signals. In Jaesung's world, when a man marks something, everyone sees the mark. The clinic that used to be invisible was now lit up. Everyone in the organization knew. 4 dead for the foreign nurse. Boss killed them himself. The word spread through restaurants, through back rooms, through phone calls that lasted 6 seconds and said everything. Ada held the stethoscope. Cold metal. Clean. She turned it over in her hands. She'd wanted one like this for 3 years. Couldn't afford it. Now it hung from a hook in her clinic like it had always been there. She should have felt grateful. She felt watched. Tuesday morning. 8:14 a.m., a man in a black suit walked in. Didn't sign in, didn't sit. 3 seconds. He looked at Ada. His eyes moved across her face. Recording. He nodded once. Turned. Walked out. And now you're back where we started. That moment at the top. The man who cataloged her like a camera. Now you know why. Now you know what she did to earn that nod. He wasn't one of Jaesung's. He was someone else's. A rival. A competitor. Someone who now knew that Ada Okafor, broke nurse, Mapo clinic, blue scrubs, was the single most effective lever in Seoul if you wanted to move Park Jaesung. She was debt-free. She was visible. And she was hunted. 7 in the morning. She held the peppermint oil jar. The crack ran down the side. A hairline fracture from the night she dropped it. The night they broke her ribs. It still worked. It still smelled like her mother. But the glass would never be smooth again. 3 drops. Left wrist. Eyes closed. 1 breath. Gloves on, she walked to the door. Outside, 3 patients waited. A grandmother with a cane. A young man with a bandaged hand. A mother holding a toddler with a runny nose. Regular people. People who needed the clinic open. People who needed her to show up. She opened the door. Stepped aside. "Come in," she said in Korean. "I'm here." Across the street, a black sedan sat with its engine running. Windows dark. It hadn't moved since 6:30 a.m. It wouldn't move until she locked up tonight. She couldn't tell if it was protection or a threat. Maybe both. Maybe there was no difference anymore. The peppermint oil still worked. The jar was cracked, but it still worked. Every morning, before gloves, 3 drops, 1 breath. Her mother's smell. In a country that wasn't hers. In a clinic that was barely standing. Freedom had a cost. She paid it the same way she'd paid everything else. By showing up. By getting to work. By opening the door. The sedan didn't move. Neither did she.